go over with some updates on where we're at with our DNA lab and other operations. But I want to start off today first by apologizing. As the Chief of Police for the Austin Police Department and representing my agency, I apologize to the community and to our partners in the criminal justice system that we're in the position where we are today. I'm proud of the Austin Police Department. We are a leading agency across many fronts, but we have failed in the area that's under question now with some of our DNA operations and some of the issues that came forward through the Forensic Science Commission audit. And for that, I take responsibility, and I'm working with a team of leaders to push this forward so that our community has a system that works for them. Y'all are aware, I think, of some of the issues that got us to the point to where we're at. We've had a DNA lab since 2004. Since that time, we've had 17 audits. None of those audits pointed to the issues that ultimately came to the forefront in the Texas Forensic Science Commission audit. And a lot of things have happened since then. We've had personnel that worked in the lab, personnel that managed the lab that are no longer with us. But at the end of the day, I am apologizing on behalf of this department in my role as the chief, and committed to getting us forward on a path that is going to allow us to have a system that works for our community. I can relate to the frustrations of not only the taxpayers who are wondering at the end of the day what the physical impact of this will be, but also to my partners in the criminal justice system that, again, is making their jobs that much more difficult. I want to let everyone know today that we are ceasing all of our operations towards reopening our serology and DNA functions at the APD lab. We received additional positions in our budget this year for additional scientists and a supervisor, again, to increase the capacity of our DNA lab. We will not make those hires. We will not hire any other individuals into our lab. You are aware that the letter DPS issued, I believe it was late last week, that they did not want to move forward with anyone other than our two newest scientists in the training program. And that's all we are going to do at this point, is those two scientists will continue their training at DPS under DPS's supervision in DPS's lab. And at a point at which DPS is finished with that training, we will make a decision of what role they will play in any work for APD under DPS's supervision. But again, those are decisions to be made down the road once we have worked with our partners at DPS through the training of these individuals. My role right now, and the role of the folks at APD, is to be a resource to our partners in the criminal justice system. We are working with the mayor, council members, the county judge, the district attorney's office, the county attorney's office, and the defense bar has input as well. Ultimately, it will be the policymakers that will make the decision on what the path from here is and what the future lab structure for our community is that will work best. We will continue as a supportive role, providing them the information that they need to make the best decisions, again, as we go forward. But this is a decision that ultimately will be made by the elected officials. To that end, you all are aware we have a dual process working right now. We are in the city putting forward a request through council, and the county has already done this through the commissioner's court, to fund two independent studies. We're going to bring in outside experts. One is going to do a look backwards to get an understanding of how did we get to the point we got to, what allowed these failures to occur, and more importantly, what systems need to be in place in any lab to keep from that. And then the other study will be the look forward, and this will be the work that will go into designing, defining recommendations on what a lab should look like in the future. What should the management structure be? Who should control that lab? And again, that will be the decision that the policymakers will make at the end of the day. A few new issues that have come up as well. We have hired a chief forensic officer. This was done after we had an audit by the major city police chiefs group on how to best structure our lab organizationally. And we had a retirement of an individual who was running the lab prior to that. We hired an individual to run our lab from Phoenix. And after we made that hire, we started hearing from some of our partners in the criminal justice system that they had concerns over his background and his qualifications. As a result of that, I pulled his transcripts because the information was specifically related to his academic background. And after reviewing his transcripts, I do not believe that he has the qualifications that I want in someone that would run the other functions of our lab that are still operational. Again, we've only shut down serology and DNA. We are still functioning with blood work, chemistry, ballistics, patent prints, latent prints. This individual has been removed from his role overseeing any lab functions, and he is not associated with the lab at this time. And I'm not going to talk any more about him. His future at this point is something that we're working on determining how we will work through that. Additionally, we've put a new commander out over the forensics division. This is Commander Mike Eveleth, who used to be over the department's homicide, robbery, and special investigations unit. He is a commander that has the ability to dig deep, to get into the minutia, and to really understand the finer points. Given what's happened in the lab, we are doing a thorough review of all of the other disciplines. We're doing a review of what we're doing in chemistry, what we're doing in ballistics, patent and latent, and I believe that that the skill that he will bring to this job will allow us to continue to ensure that we are employing the best practices in those specialties in compliance with the ASCLD standards. DPS, again, as I mentioned, is willing to continue to train the two newest scientists, and we have those two individuals that are undergoing that training. And again, we will define what their role will be once we get them through that training. There was also another letter that came out earlier this week, I believe on Monday, and this was allegations made by a former employee of APD's lab several years ago. The complaints were specifically in regards to how we do our blood analysis to calculate blood alcohol concentration levels. This employee made similar complaints several years ago. We forwarded those complaints to the Texas Forensic Science Commission along with DPS. Both of those agencies came in, reviewed our practices, validated our practices, and found that we had done nothing wrong and in fact were compliant. It appears as though she is making very similar allegations this time. However, we did not write them off. We immediately met the next day, members of APD, along with our DWI unit, our scientists that do the blood work, met with representatives from the county attorney's office along with the district elect office to review our practices. Preliminarily, based on that meeting, I do not have concerns at this point with the operations of our chemistry section and our blood analysis. However, again, in an overabundance of caution, given other issues that have occurred, we have reached out to our partners at DPS, and they have agreed to look at our practices to ensure that we are yet again compliant, as we were last time she complained, with the best practices and standards. I think at this point, what I'm focused on is making sure that we get a system in place that works the best for our community and for the criminal justice system. Recognizing the failure that we had occur in our lab, taking responsibility for that failure, but committed to pushing forward and ensuring that we give the decision makers, the policy makers, the information that they need so that we can have a system that works here in Austin for everybody. So with that, I'm going to end my comments and open it up for questions. All right.
If no,
That was a long pause.
That was just a lot of information, so I was just trying to process it all. First of all, did you say you're closing down permanently the DNA lab and the serology?
We are making no efforts at this point to open that back up. So I'm not saying there's been a permanent decision. I'm saying as an organization, we are ceasing any efforts to open it up at this point, and the only efforts that are underway are the two scientists that DPS is willing to train. We will continue with that because there may be an opportunity for those employees in the future to work for us under DPS's supervision, but that is a decision to be made many months from now.
So not talking about Mr. Manley's future with you guys, but how did you select him a sudden you were like, wait a minute, you're not the guy we wanted? It sounds like a very short process or something.
Sure. I mentioned earlier that I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated about that as well. We had a system where we held interview boards, we had panels, we had individuals sit on this panel, they conducted interviews, and what they looked for is they looked for the box being checked that he had a degree, but they didn't go the extra step of looking at the documents behind that degree. And that's the documents, as I said, that I have reviewed, and based upon my review of those documents, I don't believe that those qualifications are acceptable for someone that I want running our lab.
What kind of degree is it?
It's a science degree.
Okay. But just not the one that you want?
It's not performing at the academic level that I would want to see in someone who's going to run the crime lab functions that remain open for our community.
Is that more, or am I going to just keep hopping it?
In terms of the ongoing DNA testing that is to come, will that continue to go to DPS or are there other labs?
Sure. So, as you know, the city engaged a contract with SWIFTS, the Southwestern Institute of Forensic Science. And again, this was to hopefully address the growing caseload that we have. Unfortunately, a lot of folks are using SWIFTS right now. The district attorney's office is even forwarding cases to SWIFTS. We've been asked to only send 20 cases to them a month, and that is not going to assist us in clearing up the backlog or keeping up with the current cases. So we are actively engaging the science community again, other labs looking for a solution to handle the current cases that are coming in.
Do you expect to see a slowdown in the way the criminal justice system works?
Well, again, I think that, the district attorney's office right now is outsourcing the DNA work that they need for the cases that are most critical now, the ones that are approaching trial. So I think that's why we're being limited in the number of cases they want to see from us, because they want to actually be able to process those cases.
What went into your decision to close serology and DNA and keep the others functioning?
Well, when we got the report from the Texas Forensic Science Commission, back, I think it was in June, that's what the report was focused on. It was focused on the practices that we had ongoing in our DNA serology section. There were no concerns about the blood work, the chemistry, the ballistics. There were no issues with that. So we felt like the appropriate step at that point, and the only area that they recommended at that point was to cease operations with DNA and serology.
There's no timetable now to reopen those?
No, there is no timetable, nor is there any guarantee that we will reopen them. That is a decision that the policymakers will make once we have this outside study done by an outside expert that tells our community what the options are.
And so, you said that there were 17 audits throughout this period. To what do you attribute whatever problems there are being missed during these 17 audits?
It's interesting. Some of the audits were process audits. They focused on the science and how we do science. Some of them were organizational audits. They were paper audits on our reporting and all of that. But that was what kind of came up when the Texas Forensic Science Commission came in and did the review of us. I think that this has started a discussion in the scientific community because we are ASCLD certified. We've maintained our certification from our governing board through this entire set of circumstances. So I know that the Texas Forensic Science Commission has reached out to ASCLD, and they're having conversations right now about how we were an accredited lab when they came in and found the concerns that they found.
That makes me wonder, so you're talking about how DPS is going to look at our processes again for, which one is it?
They're for the blood work.
For the blood work. But they were among some of the people who looked at the allegations before and thought everything was okay. So how do we know that any study going forward is going to be something we can confidence in?
DPS's lab is fully accredited and fully compliant, so we have every confidence in their training of our employees as well as their ability to look at our operations to ensure we are also compliant.
I understand that Travis County commissioners are waiting on a plan for you guys to present to them to help move forward in terms of like the cost responsibilities that are being shared. Where are we on that?
We're drafting the language for that interlocal agreement right now, so that is actively underway, and we're working to get that in front of our council as early as possible, and I think the next council meeting is January 26th. So that's what we're working towards, is to get that interlocal agreement in front of our council at the earliest opportunity.
Could you repeat his name and talk about what role you're going to have?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not repeat it. I should say it for the first time. My apologies. This is Ray Ariano. He is the assistant city manager, and he oversees all public safety. So, in short, he's my boss.
Thank you, Chief. Just briefly here, Assistant City Manager Ray Ariano. And again, I have responsibility for the public safety service group of departments. I just want to emphasize how serious the interim city manager Hart and I, as well as the city council, take this issue. And we have full confidence that the chief here is taking the steps necessary in order to address the situation and come to resolution, certainly on the things that we have area of responsibility for, but really to partner with the county and the other stakeholders in this process to find out what is the best solution for, at least in the DNA analysis piece of the lab work, what will be best. And again, he mentioned that we're going to bring on a consultant to look forward and see what those options are. And we're actively looking for who can do that service, and hopefully we'll have that information so that we can put the interlocal agreement forward as early as the end of January. So,
Spell your last name for us?
sure, its first name is Ray, R-E-Y, and then last name is A-R-E-L-L-A-N-O.
And how much are those studies gonna cost, do you think?
Unknown. So that's one of the reasons why we're waiting. We need to, first of all, find who can do this kind of work, particularly for the look back, which is highly technical in nature. There's probably only a handful or a very small population of firms or consultants that can do that work. And so it's made it somewhat challenging given the fact that they may have their own responsibilities or scopes of work that they're working on now. And so we're actively trying to find those resources as well as try to determine what will be the cost. Okay.
These are the recommendations that Travis County judges made in a letter that they wanted to see to look forward, to look back. Is that right?
Say that again?
There were recommendations that some Travis County judges made in a letter regarding this. And this is kind of what they were looking for. Is that about right?
So the Travis County judges are specifically asking that the DNA lab not be within APD. What the Commissioners Court and the City's Council is working on right now is to identify what are the options, which could include that. It could include maintaining it within the city organization, or perhaps having DPS do that or provide that service. So we're looking more broadly at what are all the options in terms of the provision of that. But certainly the Travis Court judges have a specific view. Okay.
All right. Thank y'all.
Thanks.